afternoon, good morning, good evening. Welcome to a culinary experience. My name is Pedro Diaz. Friends call me Chef Pierre Francois. Today we're going to work on what we call a Mexican dish, Americanized, called a chicken quesadilla. My segments run only 10 minutes long, so this is going to be a quick process. But at the same time, I'm going to be working through and explaining everything to you as we go. Two major ingredients that you're going to need definitely is some raw chicken breast, which is very beautiful in the butcher store, and some flour tortillas. Now the flour tortillas is always good to have them outside, have them in a damp environment. The first thing we're going to do, you should always use, is the ingredients that's going to resemble the dish that you're going to work on. So for instance, if we're going to work on a chicken quesadilla today, which is with a Mexican flair, then we grab a nice chicken breast like this one. Let's make it 2 pieces so you can serve about 5 or 6 people. Now, what I always do, I always start with a little bit of salt and pepper on all my recipes. Everything you always cook should have a little bit of salt and pepper in it. I mean, it is essential. It gives it the wonderful flavor that you need. I myself, when I'm cooking steaks or something like that, especially if it's a good cut like a filet mignon or New York strip or something like that, I just use salt and pepper and I sear it on high temperature or an open flame because you want to get the best flavors out of it. In this case, we're going to use what we have is 3 things. You could always buy these in the store. I mean, you know, a good cook at home can always create something wonderful. I always, when I go shopping, I always pick up a paprika. Sometimes I'll pick up a, you know, an ingredient like a chili powder or like a cayenne pepper. I mean, every time you go shopping, if you pick up one ingredient by the end of the month, or maybe by about 4 or 5 months, you'll have enough things to create your own wonderful meals at home. First, we're going to start off with a little bit of the chili powder. Just sprinkle it on top of the chicken. I mean, because you want to bring out the Spanish flavor in it. You want to bring out the spiciness in the chicken. You want to, you know, your friends to see that. Now, the chili cayenne pepper is a spicy one. I mean, that's really going to knock you over the edge. So you want to go a little bit light on it, you know. And at the same time, paprika. Now, paprika is basically used always on a dry rub. If you got short ribs at home or you got baby back ribs, you want to make a dry rub, I would recommend that you always use paprika, chili powder, cayenne pepper, stuff like that, depending on the flavor that you want. I always add a little bit of parsley. I think parsley is a neutral herb. What I mean by neutral herb is that it really doesn't have any flavor in it, but it is proven that parsley is good for the heart. So I mean, if you want to chew parsley all day, go right ahead. You know, feel free. But it is good for the heart, and it's always good for decoration. A little bit of olive oil, because you always want to add a little bit of oil when you're going to grill. Now, I have a Bobby Flay grill top. I don't mean to promote Bobby Flay, but he is a wonderful chef and he's taking culinary to a totally different level. So, what we're going to do, I bought a skillet grill. I mean, skillet's cast iron. This thing weighs like 20 pounds for like $12. So what we're going to do is take this chicken, put it right on top, and let it cook away for a couple of minutes. You want to give it a good, beautiful grill mark on it. Now, the ingredients that we're going to use for this quesadilla today, that we're going to boost it up, it's going to be a black bean and corn salsa. It's going to have some freshly made guacamole, and you're going to have sour cream as well. Now, the sour cream you could always buy in the store. That's not a biggie. Always stir it up in a little container before you take it out and use it. Now, as far as the black bean salsa, you can always go to your supermarket and buy a can of corn and a can of black beans. Now, the rest of the ingredients you're going to add into it, basically like we have back here, we have Bermuda onions, which is the purple onions. We have garlic, I have ginger, I have salt, I have pepper, a little bit of olive oil, and a little bit of cilantro. So what we're going to do now, we're just going to add a little bit of cilantro to this mixture here, just to boost it up a little bit and give it a little bit of flavor. Anything that's of a southern cuisine, and actually just about everybody's using cilantro these days. Cilantro adds a lot of flavor and a lot of body to the food that you're about to prepare. I mean, I recommend that you be acquainted with the dish that you want to prepare in order to use the proper ingredients that's going to go towards it. So in this case, since it is a salsa and it is a Spanish thing, we're going to add cilantro to it, a little bit of lime, a little bit of juice. Now, we're going to take this chicken. Always want to keep your temperature on a moderately medium heat, especially if you have an alarm in your house to indicate, you know, a high flame. Now, what I like to do to prevent all that from happening, I always put a lid on it. I keep a lid on it just to keep the moisture in. Chicken breast cooks very fast. I don't see why people have to overcook chicken breast. If you cook it at a moderate heat, Cook it till it's a little bit tender, like where your wrist is at, and you notice the texture of your wrist bone right here. That's where the chicken should be at. And anything beyond that, you should take it out, put it in a closed container, and let the heat and the vapors finish cooking it up. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to do that. And the salsa, well, we already have the salsa mix going on here. Like I said, the salsa, you know, you can always use ingredients in your house, you know. So just make sure you mix them very well. Salt, pepper, olive oil, ginger, garlic, tomatoes, diced purple onions, and just have yourself a mixture of combinations. You can make salsas out of everything. I mean, mango, pineapple, papaya, you know. Guacamole. Guacamole is a very simple ingredient as well. What you need is a nice ripe avocado. Now, I recommend that when you go shopping for avocados, that you touch the texture of it. It has to have an indentation. Your finger has to barely squeeze the avocado slightly, just like any fruit, just like a papaya or a mango or something like that, and split it in half. Now, anything beyond this texture right here, you're going to get brown specks. And always use a knife to take out your pit, and be careful when removing the pit from the knife, so as not to get cut. Now, what I like to do to score and get the guacamole out, you can take a spoon and pull it out, but I always use the back of a paring knife, not the sharp side, because that will go through the skin and cut you. So you want to score it a couple of times, and get this and get the flesh separated from the skin. Now, what you would like to do is take a spoon and just slide it right in there. I mean, only with a ripe mango, or I mean with a ripe avocado, can you get this mission accomplished. So, I mean, once you got that scooped out, it's a matter of just adding the ingredients that make guacamole. In this case, we're going to add several ingredients, and right here we're going to have a little tomato. Just take a slice of tomato, slice it up real nice and fine. I mean, depending how much you're making. If you're making for 5 or 6 people, you know, by all means, just chop up more tomatoes and more onions. Put that in a mixture. At the same time, grab a nice Bermuda onion. I like using Bermuda onions because Bermuda onions are nice and sweet. And I mean, I like regular onions, it's okay, but when I want to do something like a salsa that I'm going to eat direct, I like using a purple Bermuda onion. I mean, it has a nice sweetness to it, and you know, you can get a lot of flavors out of it. Always clean your knife as you're going. And now the secret to a good guacamole with all these ingredients in it is to dice them very, very small. You don't want to go with big chunks. You just want to get small little pieces in there. And so in here you have avocado, you have tomatoes. You want to, you know, when you're working, you want to take a look at the chicken. Make sure they're not overcooking. You want to get your pan nice and hot. You want to start off with a nice hot pan when you're going to lay down the tortilla and the cheeses and everything in it, because you want to get a nice brown flavor to it. So to finish off this avocado guacamole, you're just going to mush everything up. Grab a lime. You can have a lemon, but I prefer to use a lime. It's traditional. Squeeze the lime in there. Like I said, add a little bit of cilantro. I mean, cilantro goes a long way when it comes to Latin cuisine. So you just want to add a little bit of cilantro in the dish to give it that flavor that comes with Southern cuisine. Always clean your hands. Always maintain a clean kitchen. And don't forget your salt and pepper. Always add a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. I like to grind my stuff fresh, because I think the fresher it is. My wife used this one the last time. She was like, oh, it's so spicy. Because you're cracking the peppercorn right as you're working with it. So the flavors are just coming out as soon as you're cracking these peppercorns that are inside. You want to add a little bit of olive oil. And there's your guacamole. Just mix it up. And let it sit for a while at room temperature, because you want all the flavors to mix in together. You want everything to marry. The refrigerator is a good place to keep it, but it congeals all the flavors, so it doesn't allow them to separate and marry with each other as it usually does if you leave it at room temperature. And your end result will be something like this, a nice, you know, creamy guacamole. So we're going to start with setting up the guacamole, setting up the dish. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to transfer the chicken to the oven to transfer this chicken to the oven and let it finish cooking there, while we start preparing a quesadilla. So now the chicken most likely is going to come out like this, nice and tender. You want to slice the chicken. Definitely you want to slice the chicken before you start your production. So what you want to do, you want to get a knife and you just want to cut your chicken on a bias. Now you notice the smoke. This has been sitting there for a few minutes, but I don't cook it to a raw temperature or medium rare temperature. I cook it to a tender consistency, so as when it sits in this humid, in this smoke, you know, it's like putting it inside a container and sealing it. All those vapors in this going to finish cooking off the chicken breast. You really don't have to cook it to a degree where it's going to dry out at the end. So what you want to do here, you want to add a little bit of olive oil to your pan, because you want the quesadilla to have a nice brown color. If you see you have a little too much oil, just dip it out in the thing. Take your tortilla, put it down. Immediately you're going to hear that. Now what I'm using is a mixture of cheeses. It's cheddar and Monterey Jack. You can find it in the store. It's a finely shredded one. That's the best one you're going to use. So we're going to add some of this in here and just spread it out evenly. I mean, you don't want to add too much cheese because you're going to have 2 layers of everything. So you're going to add the cheese down. You're going to take some of this chicken that you sliced up on a bias, and you're just going to put it around inside. Now, I like to use a lot of chicken. I mean, for me, I just say if you're going to eat something, eat it right. You're going to cook it right. If you're going to enjoy it the right way. So we're going to put that there, and we're going to top it off with a little bit more cheese on top. Now you say that's a lot. It's not really a lot of cheese because it's going to melt. It's going to taste wonderful. So at the end, what you're going to do, take another one, put it on top, and squeeze it down with your hand. Now start moving it around, because you don't want the flour tortilla to burn on one side. You want to give it a nice brown texture and a nice brown color. Now what we're going to do here, we're going to set up for the presentation. Presentation for any plate is what sells the plate. People look before they taste. Definitely that's just the way it goes in the business. So not only do you have to create a plate that tastes wonderful, but also that it looks good. So as the individual can enhance both palates, the vision and the taste palette, and at the end get the same result in combination. So what we're going to do here, we're going to do a trick where you're going to put the spatula underneath, and you're going to flip in the air and let gravity do the rest. And there you go, voila. So now I recommend highly that you put a little bit of oil on top of the tortilla that you're going to flip around, so that you can get the same brown color from the other tortilla that's underneath. And let that cook off for a few minutes. Now I've gotten into the business, I've been in this business like 23 years. I love it. I mean, on my segments that you're watching right now, these are 10-12 minute segments, and I do everything from from deboning chicken, making mother sauces, and creating dishes within a 15-minute period. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. My friends call me Petey. Well, I call myself Chef Pierre because, hey, what can you do? You know, you got to enhance and you got to sell yourself. But today, I felt like going a little bit Mexican. So when I finish this segment, I'm definitely going to enjoy this plate. And my next segment, it's going to be Oriental. I'm going to do a huli huli chicken that came in from Hawaii. It's if you saw my chicken segment where I left the thigh, the leg, and I deboned it, I'm going to use that, and we're going to marry so many ingredients in a few minutes that once I finish eating this, we're going to move on to taping Act 2. So bear with me a few minutes here while we give this a little bit of color. Now the chicken is in the oven. I got a lot of food left over, so when my wife comes from work and the kids come from school, they're going to enjoy this meal. So let's start the presentation and get this over with so as I can move on to my next show, because like I said, I only have a 15-minute window. So here we go. So now, over here, you have a beautiful, beautiful brown colored quesadilla. So what we're going to do, we're going to put that down. We're going to take a big knife. I have one here with my towel. Well, right there. So what we're going to do, we're going to cut it in half. Cut it in 4. And get like about 6 pieces. 4 pieces in each plate. So what you do here, presentation is the key. Take a little bit of the salsa, put it there. On this side as well. Take some of this guacamole, plop it in between there. And then take the sour cream and plop that right in the middle. Now, I think this is a beautiful dish. It looks wonderful. There goes the presentation. You got spicy chicken, you got guacamole, you got mango salsa, black beans. Now this will go great with a coconut drink, which I happen to have right here. So, from my kitchen to your home, a culinary experience. Bon appetit. My name is Pedro Diaz. People call me Chef Pierre. Good night.